So thank you ladies for joining us tonight. I love having y'all here. And I just want to say real quick that the whole point of these calls is to develop us as leaders. And I'm going to try to pick a different topic every month because as we want our teams to grow, we need to always be growing and developing ourselves. And I heard this a long time ago. I think it was at convention maybe, but whatever you did to get you to your current rank is not going to be the things that you need to do to get you to your next rank. So if you're still doing whatever rank you're at now, if you're still doing the exact same thing that got you there, then that's where you're going to stay. And it takes growing and developing ourselves, learning more, learning different things to get us to the next level. And that's again what these calls are about: how you lead, how you develop people, how you handle hard conversations, how you cast vision, how you show up on days that you don't feel like it. That's what moves the needle from rank to rank. It's not necessarily about working harder, but it's just fine tuning what you are doing to get you to that next level. And that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight. Think of tonight's call as a two-sided coin. And the first side of the coin is one that we have talked about in the past. I know they probably even talked about this at convention. I think we did a call on this a couple years ago. But then the flip side of the coin that we're going to cover at the end is something that I hadn't thought about until I read it in a book recently. And I thought that it perfectly complements the first part of this. So, like I said, think of it as a two-sided coin. The first thing we're going to talk about, it comes from John Maxwell. He has written multiple books on this. He's talked about this a lot, but it's called The Law of the Lid. So if you think about your leadership as a lid, wherever you are right now, you're putting a cap on how much your business is going to build because there's a lid on it. And that lid is determined by you, where you're at in your abilities, where you're at in your time, and how you work your business. That is your lid. It's literally a cap on you and your team's potential. So if you're a six as a leader, your team will not operate higher than that six. And I heard this I think a youth pastor said this some time ago when I was a kid, and he was talking about parenting. He's like, it's really important when you become a parent to have really high values and high standards because your kids will always choose things a little bit less than where your standards are. And that always has stuck with me to make sure. And our kids probably think we're very hard on them, but the reason is because I mean, that's the truth that we see. And it's the same in our businesses. Whatever we're doing, our teams will do a little bit less. And if we have that lid low, then they're going to not go very far either. Um, just another example, Austin, she started taking singing lessons when she was really little, and we just got her like a beginner singing teacher. And after a couple years, she was growing further than where that teacher could take her. And so we decided then to find another teacher that was more advanced, that had more advanced students, and she's done way better under that teacher. And it's the same concept because that teacher only could take her so far. And so you have to think of yourself like that with your team. You want to be the person that people say, I want to join under them because I know if I do, they'll take me all the way. And they may not be able to necessarily know why, but people just get a sense of who the real leaders are and who's all in and who's not. And they will want to join under the person they feel is the most all in. Even if they can't really verbalize why, they get the sense of that. And that's exactly what's happening in your business, whether you see it or not. Your team will only rise to the level that you're operating at. So if you are still doing the same things you were doing 6 months ago, then your results are going to be the same as they were 6 months ago. And then if you aren't attracting leaders, then, that's because you've hit that leadership lid. Because people who are higher than you, who have a higher leadership lid, are going to look for somebody else to join under because they want someone that will help develop them further. Your lid doesn't just limit the people you already have, but it does limit the people who might potentially join under you. Because, like I said, they see who's showing up the most and who's the most passionate and who's going to convention and participating in things. And that's the people that they want to join under. That's why I try to always post, those convention pictures or if I'm, at the pool reading a leadership development book. I like to post those things in my stories because I want people to see that I'm somebody who is constantly bettering myself in this field so that when they join under me, they can be confident that I'll help them as well. Maxwell also talks about the law of magnetism. You attract who you are, not who you want to be. And that goes hand in hand with that. So if you want to have those rock stars on your team that are going to go all in and be self-motivated and do all the things, you have to do that first because they're not going to be attracted to you if you're not doing that first. So your team won't be crazy successful until you've started developing those habits that people will be attracted to. People can feel your level. They're watching your content, they're watching your consistency, they're watching how you carry yourself. If you're most comfortable with customers and not developing leaders, then you'll only attract customers and you won't develop leaders. A sharp, driven, capable woman is not going to follow someone who stopped developing themselves. So if you don't raise your lid for your current team, then people are just going to go somewhere else and your team's going to stall out. So how do you do that? How do you raise your lid? We talked about why it's important, but how do you actually do it? It's not complicated, but it does take intention. You don't just wake up as a leader of a huge team and then figure out how to lead them. If you want a huge team, you have to figure out how to lead first. And the number one way to do that is reading books. Not listening to podcasts, not watching videos, but reading leadership development books, which we all know John Maxwell is like the number one in the world at that. Cannot recommend him enough. There's a list on our team page under the feature section of books that are great, and some of them are leadership specific. But I'm constantly have a book that I'm reading, if not two or three. I'm never not have, and I don't necessarily sit down for 3 hours a day and read, but I'll read 10 to 15 pages a day. And even that habit, over time, you'll learn so much information on how to develop yourself as a leader, things that you didn't even think of before. The second way, besides reading, is get in rooms that stretch you, whether that's at convention. I know Joanna was just at the Jewels of Excellence, which is a great example of that because there are so many people in that room who are doing things and are crazy successful. And sometimes it can be intimidating to be in those rooms because you see these diamonds and double diamonds and, they're having uber success and you're just supposed to show up and rub shoulders with them. But if you don't do that, then you're not going to learn what they're doing. They were once in your exact spot. The only reason they're not there anymore is because of what they did. And so it's so important to be in those rooms and have those conversations with them and increase the, I don't want to say quality of people because I don't want to guys know what I'm saying, right? But there are some people that will hold you back, whether it's a super negative mindset or they have a victim mentality, and wherever they're at in life, they're just going to stay stuck there because of their mindset. So if you want to raise your leadership lid, you have to get in rooms with people where the women are saying, what are your dreams? How are you going to make it happen? What are you doing to get there? Encouraging you, supporting you, giving you tips along the way. And then the third thing is to figure out what skill is holding you back and study that. So, you know what, this is an area, maybe it's how to close a sale. Maybe it's the psychology of decision making. Maybe it's how to start conversations. Whatever that is that's holding you back, there are so many books out there that will help you develop that skill to take you to the next level. But you won't be able to work on it if you don't know what it is. And maybe just because you're in it, you can't see it. Go to your sponsor, go to your sideline, say, what do you see I'm missing? What do I need to focus on and work on? And they will, I promise you, very kindly and completely judgment-free, help you figure that out because they want you to be successful. So identify what it is that's holding you back and work on that. The question isn't, am I a good leader? Is it, am I a better leader than I was 6 months ago? Because we're never going to get, well, we shouldn't ever get to the point where we're like, I have arrived as a leader. I know everything that there is to know. I'm the best leader of leaders. We should always be working and developing on things to raise that leadership lid, to add different, things to our tool belt that help us in our business where we can help other people in their business. Because it's not just about us, it's about the people who trust us to help them along the way. So that's the one side of the coin. That's the leadership lid. The other side of the coin, which is again the one I hadn't thought of until I was reading The Science of Scaling, which is an amazing book, tons of great stuff in there. But the other side of that coin is your floor. And while we are raising our ceiling, we also need to be raising our floor. It's just as important to raise our floor as our ceiling. Our lid or our ceiling is the highest level that we can operate at, but the floor is the lowest level that you allow yourself to operate at. And I think a lot of times, which we should give ourselves grace, but I think a lot of times we use it an excuse like I had a bad day or whatever to not do anything. But whatever your today was the worst day ever, that's your floor, what you do on those days. So if we can raise our activity on our worst days, then we are greatly going to raise our activity overall. So think about what your floor is, what your very worst week looks like. It's Monday morning, something with the kids happened, the house is a mess, nobody on your team is answering. You'd rather just sit on the couch and watch your comfort zone or comfort show. But what do you do that day? That's your floor. And we need to constantly be challenging ourselves to raise our floor because your team does not model your best day. Your team models your floor. That is what they're watching. So if you are saying, well, yeah, but on last Wednesday I did this, this, and this, but every day since you've been doing your floor, that's what your team is going to model. Not your best day, your worst day. If you disappear for a week when life gets hard, your team learns that disappearing is acceptable. If you skip follow-ups when you're tired, your team learns that follow-ups are optional. If you only show up on weeks that you feel motivated, you're teaching your entire team that this business is run on your feelings. And feelings are the most unreliable fuel source on the planet. So we want to make sure that our team sees us showing up, even if it's just a little bit. Just that consistency will help them raise their floor as well because your floor is your team's standard, not your highlight reel, your floor. And he says in his book to stop tolerating your own inconsistencies because your team is watching what you do on hard days, not just when it's easy. They see how many times a week you post. They see if you're leading, posting on a team page, leading a team page, leading team chats. They see if you're adding people. They see if you're if you have people ranking up under you. Your team is watching what you're doing, even if they aren't responding to you. It's amazing to me the people who will just randomly comment on something or message me out of the blue and they're like, oh, I read I had one lady a couple weeks ago. I didn't even know we were Facebook friends. She says she's read every post I made for like the last 4 years. And I didn't even know, I had to like look up who she was. So you have no idea how much people actually are watching your consistency or your inconsistency. So as important as it is that we raise our lid, we also have to make sure that we're paying attention to our floor. And if you have your bare minimum, this is my absolute worst day, this is my bare minimum stuff, I want to encourage you to add one or two more things to it, even if it's small, just because adding to your floor over time is going to help raise your entire organization. And that's something I hadn't thought of until I read that in the book. I thought that was an excellent tip. So, how do you raise your floor? Pick 2 or 3 non-negotiable things that you're going to add to your bare minimum, no matter how you feel. Again, they don't have to be big things, but just pick little things here and there to add to your non-negotiable, regardless of how you feel. And then show up even on messy days, even if you're showing up messy, even if it's just one thing in your stories or one little post, just so your team sees you and your consistency even on messy days. And they're not going to know. They're not going to know if you're having a really messy day or if you're having a great day. They'll just know if you're there or not. And if, again, because they're going by what you're doing. If you disappear for a week or don't post for 3 days straight, they're not going to know that something really bad is happening unless you posted it. They're just going to know you weren't there. And so it's so important that we show that consistency to our current people and to the people who are trying to decide who they want to order from. So show up messy on messy days, even if it's just a quick follow-up, a quick check-in, a quick conversation, a quick post in your story, just something every day. Just raise what that minimum is. The second thing is show up on social media, whether it's a story, a post, something. So your page doesn't completely go dark just because you has a crazy day. And I have a ton of in the notes in my phone, I have a ton of just random posts in my saved on Facebook. I have a ton of random posts. That way, if my days get crazy and I need to post something, I have a bunch that are saved that I can always pull from. That's not my ideal. I'd rather have something that's more thoughtful and more intentional, but I do have those just on those days so people still see me showing up, even if it's not, like I said, my ideal. It's still something, and that's better than nothing. And then the third way is to touch your business for a minimum amount of time. If your minimum right now is 5 minutes, change it to 10 minutes. If your minimum is 30 minutes, change it to 40 minutes. Whatever right now is your minimum time, like non-negotiable, just add a little more time than that. It's not about being perfect every day, but it's about raising that floor just a little bit, even every 6 months, just so your business is constantly getting better and increasing. Um, so think about, your worst day, and if everyone on your team only did the activity that you did on your worst day, is it enough for everyone's business to move forward, or would everyone's business stop? And that was really convicting for me when I read that, because if everyone did what I did on my worst day, then we wouldn't get anywhere. So it's so important that we early evaluate that, and that even on our worst days, we're doing a little something to move the ball forward. Because if that's what our team is mimicking, then we need to be mimicking something that's going to help them move the ball forward. So I'll open it here in a second to see if anybody has a question or a comment, but just something to think about as we go forward this week. What's one thing I can do to raise my lid? Is it like a skill or an area of leadership you need to develop? Something you need to add to what you're doing? Maybe a book you want to start reading? What's one thing you can do to start working on raising your lid? And then what's one non-negotiable you can add to your floor that's going to help move the ball forward? And if you're working on both sides of that, then you can see, if you picture like a graph, your business is going to go up, right? And everybody should, if we're working on all that together. Those are my thoughts. Those are my notes that I had tonight. Your lid determines how high you can go, but your floor is going to determine on whether or not you get there. So I just thought that was really encouraging from that book, and a little convicting too. It's something that we hadn't talked about before. So thought we could maybe all benefit from it. But if anybody has any thoughts or questions or comments.
I'll just share that I have a book, John Maxwell, and it's called How to Get a Return on Failure. It was referenced quite a bit at Leaders, the Jewel training, and I'm just getting started with it. So really good.
I have never read one of his books I didn't absolutely love.
Right.
So good. And he's got lots of different topics too. And that's why I said if you can identify what it is you need to work on, or if you're not sure, ask your sponsor, because there's different things like that that he has that are for different areas.
Brittany, what was the book you were just referring to?
It's called The Science of Scaling. And I forget that guy's first name, but his last name is Hardy. I'll send a picture in our group.
Okay, Hardy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is one thing that I'm struggling with is I did some crazy weird post. It may have been like just on my story. And I had 1,200 views. And I'm like, what do I do with that? And I believe what it was me going through a car wash. And I'm like, where am I? And it was very obvious. To me, it wasn't obvious, but to everybody else it was. But I had 1,200 views.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? I need to be making money off of this stupid stuff. So I
Yeah.
just don't know what to do with that.
Anytime you have something that goes really viral like that, you said that was in your stories. I always try to post Plexus things after that. Like I always try to do personal stuff first, like that, and then Plexus stuff right
And
after because as people click through, they'll get
right.
hooked into whatever it is, and then they'll just like keep going through. And then I usually try to do something fun at the end. That way, like people will want to click through. If you can see who they are, you could always reach out to them. Say, hey, I saw you use this story. And just kind of like, haha, like make something funny of it and just see where the conversation goes.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing, I have to look her up. I think somebody, it was in the Plexus, someone in Plexus. I don't know if I can find it. Wasn't sure. I didn't even know that I was going to get on this call, but she sent me, let me see if I can find it. Somebody in Plexus, and she sent, oh, okay, here it is. Jennifer Ellis. Do you know her through Plexus? No. Okay. So I saw something on Facebook and I just started following her and she immediately, I don't know if it's like an auto response, but she immediately sent me, it says, "Hi, Missy. Hey, can I ask you something? What's holding you back from starting your health journey? If you could get started for around $40 today, improve your health and have the opportunity to turn that into 500 a month, what would that mean for your family? I'd love to share more if you're curious." So is that do you think that's an automatic thing that she has
She
set up?
It could be, or it could be something she just has saved, and like as she sees people viewing it, she's
Okay,
just
just
sending
sends
it to
it.
them.
Right.
Okay.
That's
Is
what
this a
I mean. That's
Plexus
what I
person?
do. I'm not sophisticated enough to have it auto set up. There might be a way to do that, but I just pay attention to who's viewing my stuff or who's commenting, and then just
Right.
I might again in my notes I have like a bunch of messages saved for different situations and things. That way I'm kind of ready, so I can just send them pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought that was really good,
That's really
but
good. And I
but
was
I
going to
don't know
say,
where she gets if you can start for $40 today.
okay, so if you use PayPal, there's a payment
Paying for.
method,
Yes.
and I'm not going to say I don't agree with it, but it's important that you're really honest with how you are marketing stuff. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I feel like that's sort of not letting somebody know the full amount that they're going to be starting with. I mean, I don't know. It's just
Well,
my
and I
perspective.
don't love that either because you never know what they're gonna need. And so you don't want
Right.
to make it because I heard this once if you try to make it sound like one size fits all, you'll end up selling to nobody because
Right.
it just seems like it's very generic. And so I like to be more like detailed with people and what they
Right.
need. So I would
Right.
if you but you could just leave that part out and say just get
Exactly.
started today and not even
Yes,
give an
exactly.
amount.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and that is something that I would reserve for someone if they were desperate to start the products
Yeah.
and they couldn't even spend the 150 or $160.
Yeah.
But to be honest, if we want business builders or we want clients that are going to maintain consistency, we don't want people who are desperate because
Yeah.
Right.
anyone who is desperate is likely going to fall off pretty quickly. It's pretty the percentage is probably pretty small. Someone who can put $40 out the door and
Yeah.
then they're just going to run with the business. Now it could happen. It could,
Right. It
but
could.
the statistics say
Right.
that's not likely. And in
Yeah.
reference to depending on your story, if that was a story or if it was a reel that got 1,200 views, sometimes if I have a reel that goes really viral that has nothing to do with Plexus and I want to get people excited about my page, I will share that back to my stories to view
Okay.
so that it
Okay.
boosts views again.
Okay.
You can't see who views your reels, but you can
Right.
see who sees your story.
Right.
So
Right.
if people see your story, then you can make a list and say, hey, I noticed you saw my story, and that's a reason for reaching out. The other thing is that that could be the girl that messaged you. It could have been an ad because I've done an ad before when Plexus
Oh
was
yeah, the
offering to
boost.
reimburse Jules. But
Mhm.
full disclosure, I had mostly men hitting me up asking me if I was single. So it's not usually terribly, and
Yeah.
there is an auto, and the only reason why I know is because anyone who clicked on the ad got sent an automatic message that I did not create.
Oh. Hmm.
And then I was like, wait, I didn't send that message. And that's when I realized it was an ad and it automatically sent a message. Now, that one sounds a little bit more specific and it sounds like maybe she created it that way.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it's a good way to reach out. I would just not necessarily
I just want to
be
say an amount.
The
right. I wouldn't
$40 thing.
necessarily be right out the door saying if you could start for $40 today. I would reserve that for
Right. Yeah.
someone who really, really needed it.
Yeah.
But that's not how we generally want people to start. We want people to start with some skin in the game
Yeah.
so that then they duplicate that. Because the danger to that is that if they start with $40, then they're going to duplicate that. And then you're going to get a whole bunch of people going, oh, well, why did I spend $150 and I could have started for $40? We
Mhm.
don't want to create that sort of
Right. Right.
what is the word I'm looking for?
Habit across the board.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, well, I need to hop off because I have another call, but this has been
Yep.
great. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
I'm gonna
lady.
put the recording in our group chat and then I'll put a picture of that book in there too.
Great.
Talk to
Thank
you later. You're
you.
welcome. Bye, y'all.
Bye.